going to talk about how we can use large language model to help us to speed up the Excel VBA function implementation. So the usual cycle is as follows. We go to the large language model. In the example I'm going to show you, I'm using Deepseek. So basically, once we get in there, we give a prompt, and then that prompt should generate some code based on the prompt. And then what we need to do is to validate this piece of code to see whether it's fit for purpose. Does it function correctly? And then finally, once we're happy with the code, all we need to do is to copy paste and put it into Excel for use. Okay, let's now look at how actually we can do this. Okay, the use case we're illustrating here is to use large language model to quickly implement an email extraction method using regular expression. I already did a bit of homework on the best method that we can use to pull this off, which is to use regular expression. And just a quick note, a regular expression defines, a quick search pattern for matching text. It can be used for validating inputs, and you can also use it to replace and pass data in program language. All right, so based on that knowledge in hand, I have provided my initial prompt, as you can see on the screen. And the LLM came back with a number method. The first does seem to fit our needs, as you can see. So what you're seeing here is it defines a regular expression pattern, okay? And then it set up the regular expression object, all right? Then there's some global parameter set. Doesn't really care whether it's uppercase, lowercase, no, so you set to ignore case to true, etc. And then the final bits is a logic on when you find the match, what do you do with it? So in this particular method, we only care about the first match of the instance. So implicitly, we're assuming that if this string has multiple email address, we're only going to catch the first one. Okay, that's a logic being embedded in this particular method. So assuming we're happy with this, and then we need to move to the next stage to validate this particular implementation, see whether it does fit the bill of getting the right email address out. All right, so now I have already pasted in the method into the Excel VBA. I prepared a number of test cases to see how accurate this email extraction method works. Okay, so these are the test cases here. Okay, then we're gonna see how it works. So extraction email from cell. Okay. So as you can see, for we tested so far, it looks like this method does function quite all right. Let us complicate things a bit by assuming that we hypothetically consider any email address with more than one dot after the @ sign is not a valid email address. Okay, I know this is a very hypothetical example. Then that means we have to refine our current prompt with a large language model to further refine the current method implementation. Another prompt to ask Deepseek to ignore any email address with more than one dot. It came back with another implementation by reviewing the code. If we go down, I can immediately see the regular expression pattern itself has been modified. In my opinion, this is a key implementation change that will refine our result. So basically from this point on, I will ignore everything else in this implementation just to focus on by replacing this new pattern versus the previous one where our email extraction method result will refine to accommodate a new hypothetical requirement. To the Excel, as you can see in the VBA page, I have implemented the revised email extraction method called extract email from cell 2. And then the only difference you can see is the email pattern defined here. and here. Okay, so if we test the new code now, we should expect to see the test case array to return an empty string as well. So let's just quickly do that. Okay, so now it does seem the new method works. Okay, so far we have completed our email extraction method, but we're not quite done yet. For example, as you can see on the screen, I added the case 6, which I gave a very nonsense domain name. As you can see, for both of these methods, either revised or the initial method, they will produce the email as a valid email address. But we all know this is not a valid email address because it doesn't have a valid domain. So this is where we need to take one step further. On top of the existing method we have implemented, we need to build another method called valid domain to validate the domain coming out of the email address is actually realistic and valid. Okay, here I'm not going to spend more time on this another method implementation, but that's just to give you an idea how we can integrate the email extraction method with other methods like this one. And then we will reach the final stage of this implementation, is where we have to check to say, okay, do we have a valid email string pattern? Okay, if that's true, and we do also have a valid domain, then we produce the final email address extraction. If not, then we'll leave it blank. And that will complete the whole implementation process. All right, let's wrap things up. From this episode, as you can see, integrating LLMs into Excel VBA development offers significant potentials for increasing productivity and reducing development time. However, it is crucial to understand the limitations of large language models and to carefully review and test the generated code. The shift in focus from syntax and the low-level implementation to more of a problem identification, definition, and code review require a slightly different skill set. While I still believe VBA proficiency is still beneficiary in this process, prompt engineering, critical thinking, and code review skills become more important. By carefully considering the benefits and the drawbacks, I believe for all the developers who are interested in Excel VBA can effectively leverage large language models to enhance their VBA development workflows in the future. Okay, that's all for today's video. Hope you enjoy it. See you next time.